Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. As the Biden Titanic sinks lower and lower to the ocean floor, MSNBC, particularly Mr. and Mrs. Scarborough, are now polling truthers in denial about new polls showing Biden losing head to head against former President Trump and Trump actually taking the lead narrowly among younger voters. Yes, younger voters, 18 to 34, in this new NBC poll, choose Trump over Biden. Iceberg has been hit. Let me play the beginning of the denial and alternate reality Mr. and Mrs. Scarborough are living under.
New polling from NBC News has Donald Trump ahead of President Biden by 2 points, 46 to 44%.
Excuse me 1 second. I've got a yawn. Hold on 1 second.
You're yawning? I know, because this is a pattern.
This is the end of the world, according to Democrats. Let's just say it. According to David Axelrod, who, by the way, said Biden was toast several times in 2020, this is the end of the world. According to Democrats in Washington, they need to take a deep breath.
Oh, God. Oh, God. The incumbent president, supposedly presiding over an amazing, strong, historic economy, is losing to a four-time indicted former president who engineered a coup to stop the election certification. The four-time indicted former president is literally in this new poll leading among voters age 18 to 34, 46% to 42%. So boring. I'm so tired of this. Let me repeat. In this new poll, the former four-time indicted president is leading among young voters, 18 to 34. The young voters who held their nose and voted for Biden in 2020. Trump is leading 46 to 42%. And I'm sorry, it's not only because Biden is supporting genocide and the carpet bombing and slaughter of Gaza. It's a lot of other reasons that younger voters would choose Trump over the incumbent president. That is a stage 5 fire. 5, what do they say? 5-alarm fire? Unbelievable. It's not just that Trump is now leading Biden for the first time in this NBC News poll, 46 to 44%. Biden has cratered among young voters. He's losing support among black voters, Hispanic voters. Meanwhile, these clowns, who, by the way, were very instrumental in helping the rise of Trump. Remember Morning Joe in 2015 and 2016. Oh, my God, they had Trump on nonstop, calling in his pajamas. You remember that? The good old days when they palled around with Trump? They had him on once, twice, 3 times a week, calling in his pajamas, palling around with Trump. And now, years later, they're aghast. Let's watch more of Mr. and Mrs. Joe with their 10 elitist, tone-deaf guests on how this is a nothing burger.
Well,
you know, Claire McCaskill, the discussion I'm hearing right now reminds me of the discussion I had with the senior Trump advisor in, what was it, well, actually, it was in 2020. In 2020. And this senior advisor was telling me and showed me all the numbers. Look, we've got the numbers. Donald Trump's going to get 22% of black voters. He's going to get 40% of Hispanic voters. Nevada is in the books. We've won it already. New Mexico, the numbers that we're driving right now, we're going to win New Mexico. I mean, so excuse me while I yawn, while Democrats left and right, who let's just say it, Democrats who have kicked Joe Biden around for decades, who kicked him around when he was vice president of the United States, those same Democrats are now coming. Oh, and by the way, Democrats who said he was toast in 2020 after Iowa and New Hampshire, now they're saying he's toast again. Claire, why should I not be surprised that once again Joe Biden's being underestimated?
Well, it's the story of his career. It's what he has encountered pretty much every step of the way. And listen, there's one thing these polls are good for, and that is making sure that nobody in the Biden campaign takes any segment of our vote for granted.
Amen.
There is absolutely a need to do more and do better and cover the ground more thoroughly in black and brown voters' houses all over this country. They know what's at stake. And even the young voters, they know what's at stake. They know about Dobbs. They know about our military-style weapons that are slaughtering children sitting in classrooms. They know that they're banning books and trying to look down their nose at Americans who are gay and married in this country. And they're not going to stand for that.
They know they're banning books. They know all this. And right now, in an NBC News poll, the network you're on, they're picking Trump over Biden, 46 to 42% among age 18 to 34. I'm not trying to ignore the older voters, but the bottom line is part of the reason Biden won in 2020, and there were a lot of reasons, was young voters and more black voters came out for him compared to Hillary Clinton in 2016, particularly in Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin. If you are not crushing Trump among young voters, you're going to lose. If you are tied with Trump among young voters, you're going to get slaughtered politically. If you are losing to Trump among young voters, you're talking a landslide, because you need, if you are Biden or the Democrats, you need young voters on your side by a significant margin. You need black voters on your side by a significant margin. The recent New York Times Siena poll that also showed Trump winning in 5 out of 6 swing states literally had Trump with 22% support among black voters. That is a huge number for a Republican nationally. These people, these elitist clowns on Morning Joe and MSNBC, and there's a lot of them at CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, they are either paid to intentionally lie to you and gaslight you, or they're fucking politically morons. Could be a mix of two. First of all, this whole Biden has been counted out his whole career. Everyone has underestimated him. Biden lost 2 presidential elections before he won a third. So he was a 2-time loser. He also had a plagiarism scandal, if you remember, back in the 80s, that forced him to drop out of the presidential race. Thirdly, Biden was about to lose in the 2020 Democratic primary, if not for James Clyburn bailing his ass out. He was embarrassed in Iowa and New Hampshire. Luckily for him, James Clyburn, unfortunately, the king of South Carolina politics, stepped in and endorsed him, which helped him crush in South Carolina. And then Obama came in and bailed his ass out by picking up the phone, calling little Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar and getting them to drop out. So this is revisionist history that Biden has been underestimated. He's always been underrated. No, he lost twice for the presidency, flamed out in the 80s and 2008 when he ran. He was only picked by Obama, if we're being real, because Obama knew I need to get some of these white people to support me. So I'm going to pick an old white guy in Biden for vice president. And he won by the luck of his teeth in 2020, the Democratic primary, through James Clyburn, Obama, and the rest of the Democratic machine doing everything humanly possible to get all the candidates out. And then the media did a cheerleading pom-poms for Biden after he won South Carolina in those 3 days before Super Tuesday, 24/7 pro-Biden propaganda that helped Biden beat Bernie on Super Tuesday. And then in the general election, let's not pretend or forget what 2020 was. It was the worst and the earliest stage of COVID. Biden didn't beat Trump. Trump lost to Biden because of his horrendous, I don't care what you think of COVID or vaccines or anything else. Objectively, Trump horrendously mismanaged COVID. And that was one of the top reasons Trump lost. A lot of people think if Trump would have given another $2,000 check or another check of support, Trump would have won the election. So Biden did not win in an overwhelming margin. He only won Wisconsin. I believe it was by, 10,000 votes. Pennsylvania, 80,000 votes. Georgia, Arizona, he won by less than a point. So this wasn't he was so underrated. Trump horrendously mismanaged a deadly pandemic, made a mockery of it, hydrochloroquine and all this stuff. I'm telling you right now, sure, things could change. Trump's going to be on trial possibly for 2 of these criminal cases next year. I've said for a while, do not just dismiss the chance that he might make a deal to avoid prison time, which could include dropping out of the race. But this whole notion, I'm yawning, these polls, whatever the reason is, whether it's Biden's horrendous support for Israel's slaughter of innocent Palestinians, the fact that he abandoned the few promises he made, a $15 minimum wage, a public option, $2,000 checks, stopping drilling on public lands. He's double drilling on public lands, doing pretty much nothing in the face of a climate inferno. There's a lot more reasons than just what's going on with Israel and Palestine right now for young people, for their support to significantly crater against Biden. And I don't really see it turning around. And if it doesn't turn around, Biden's going to lose by a lot. And let's say Trump is removed from the equation and it's Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. I don't really see it turning around because young people have done what you've asked. They held their nose and voted for Biden. They didn't get Build Back Better. They didn't get Restore the Soul of the Nation. They got their student loans reinstated. Virtually nothing done about a climate apocalypse. Support for genocidal insanity and crimes in the Middle East. And still no minimum wage increase for, what are we now, going on 15 years? We haven't had a minimum wage increase among all the rest of this terrible record. Joe Scarborough, keep yawning. Do us a favor. Go to sleep until the election and then wake up while we use you as a political piñata on how moronic and ignorant and maybe intentionally wrong you are.